All right, everyone. Nik here. Just wanted to another conversion lab call. This time we're looking at what really makes a difference at scale with with the large spenders. So I've spent a bit of time over the last 2 weeks or so reviewing a few campaigns of people who are spending close to 10 mil a month in the US across multiple markets. So I thought I'd share some consistencies that I've noticed across a few of them. Obviously, this is not a split test or a well-structured test because I would need a few hundred uh, big spenders to get that. But nevertheless, it was a common behavior among the handful of people that I have been having a chat with. Right. So the big reveal, split testing, nothing over the top, nothing revolutionary. I think everyone has heard of this time and time again. But I thought I'd do a quick refresher and perhaps maybe spin it a different way or give it a new perspective. This is especially for those people who are going to be watching this on YouTube, that to get the process started earlier rather than later. Right. So there are a few users inside Took who spend this kind of money. Not every month. Sometimes it's a bit less. Sometimes a bit more. Naturally, large markets in the US is where you get this kind of ad spend, which is about 10 mil a month US type of level. Obviously, there's few in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 range as well. So I don't want to take anything away from them. Now, what's the one behavior is when you look at the accounts, or when I did the account review, I naturally clicked to see what are they doing, what sort of features are they using inside the platform, and they all consistently have very high usage of the split testing feature, which is in the aggregate not used much at all. In fact, it's hardly used by anybody except for the guys who are spending the big dollars. And but when you look at where the history of the account versus the use of the split test, you can see that the split test usage started very early in their journey as well. So let's say if someone set up an account 12 months ago, or 18 months ago, or whatever, you can see that the account is set up, let's say 1st of Jan, 2024, and you can see that the split testing was used like in Feb or something. So they played around with the month to see how the whole thing works, and then they started using it pretty early on, even when their traffic was not very high. So it's not like I'll do this when I spend a lot of money. They basically it's just kind of like seems to be part of their DNA. Now, in one sense, we all talk about it from a marketing perspective. You got to split test, and all the the gurus in the past have spoken about it, A/B testing, all that sort of stuff. But if you think deeply about it, it's actually a question of capital allocation, right? It's am I putting my money in the right place? And the test tells you, is your money in the right place? And so when you look at it as a capital allocation tool, it actually all of a sudden it's like, I can't believe we're not using it, right? I can't believe it's not being used earlier, or I can't believe it's not being used, much earlier in the journey of someone trying to scale their campaign. Because the other thing it does, it gives you learning, or much faster learning, because you're testing your assumptions right away rather than saying, oh, is this going to work or not? Well, just let the market tell you, right? And obviously that feeds new ideas, and it's part of the DNA of how they work, or how the high spenders seem to be working. In fact, they don't know any other way. They start the campaign, they run the split test. That's it. Every action is a test. They couldn't care less about the result. In fact, I've seen them. I see this almost as they're quite they're almost unpassionate about the whole thing. It's just like a thing you do, like breathing in, breathing out, and it's consistent with the top traders from the financial markets. They also have the very similar response. They don't get overly excited whether they win or they lose. It's just like breathing in, breathing out. It's just like part of the job, so to speak. So I'll be sharing a bit about the server-side split testing and why do split testing. Maybe I'll explain that now. So why server-side? Basically, it's for speed and latency. I've explained in prior videos. If you're on YouTube, just do a quick search split test in the channel, and you'll see some reasons explained why you want to only do server-side. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. You can do client-side, but you just need to be a little bit more careful because you're firing scripts when someone lands, and then the script decides whether they're going to show the existing page or they're going to show the variant. And if they show the variant, it has a latency, a couple hundred milliseconds or whatever it be. And so naturally, there's a disadvantage to that, and so you got to adjust for that in your numbers and all that sort of stuff. It needlessly gets overly technical. Just use server side if you're using LeadsHook, or sign up to LeadsHook, and you can use it inside the platform. Right, so I'm going to be sharing a short demo shortly as well. Right, so what are we actually doing? It's probably, like I've shared this in the past, it's the most profitable concept or idea in marketing, which is you have some concept of who's buying from you. You drive the traffic, you get the data, and you understand is who is buying, how consistent, or does it validate the idea that I initially had. So we do these top-down analysis before you start campaigns, and then you do pretty much a bottom-up analysis to understand, to work out if the initial idea that I had about my customer is correct or not, which is why you need to spread your dollars wide to see if you're going to end up catching a segment that potentially may not have be part of the initial analysis that you did of who your target market would be. And that's the whole point, is that we're validating who this is, because then it allows you to do a whole bunch of decisions around where you should be driving your traffic, what you can cut the traffic from, and so on and so forth. Right? Once again, have covered this in detail in the past, or add to the comments if you need some help. What about things like your Taguchi and your sort of your split testing methods? That is, it's only one of a few that are out there that evaluate a subset of variables using some sort of algorithm to identify the best performing combination, but you do fewer tests. So, for example, I want to test 2 headlines, 2 body copy, 2 images, 2 prices simultaneously. Well, if you were to do that, you'd end up creating many more permutations, and naturally that means that you're going to drive a lot of dollars of traffic, or you're going to get a lot of volume. You need a lot of volume to get the analysis. And what methods like Taguchi do is they give you a subset. They say, okay, fine, we're going to test headline A with offer B and bullet C, and the algorithm creates combinations. And then based on the performance of the combinations, which is a small subset of the universe of possibilities, from there you then deduce which are the winning combinations. Essentially, that's what that. So rather than running, let's say, 10,000 tests, you'll run, let's say, 1,000 tests, but it gives you the result it simulates the result of the 1,000 or the 10,000 tests, right? And that's basically what these methodologies do. If you're very technical, you'll probably love this stuff. But I don't know anybody who's spending the kind of, sorry, I have run into one guy who does it, but it's a bit of a, it's more of a, hey, I love doing it because it's a fancy idea. But otherwise, people are just keeping it nice and basic. And so there's no need to get down into the fancy thing. If that is, so what I don't want you to think is you go to the Facebook group and someone's posting about this fancy stuff and you're like, oh crap, I gotta be doing this. No, you don't have to do this. Yeah, sure. You know what? If you got so much time and energy and money to spend and learn about these things, great, knock yourself out. But otherwise, just keep it simple. All right, that's my philosophy on it. I mean, guys spending $10 million a month on doing any of this stuff, so that should give you the answer. But if you are inclined to do this sort of stuff, then knock yourself out. All right, that's the point I'm trying to make here. But don't let it stop you from starting just because you don't know this. You don't have to know this to get the outcome that we're looking for, which is essentially to test to start with. Right. So the dumb way and the smart way of testing. I've covered this many times, and I see this over and over again. Pretty much every campaign I review, with the exception of a very few, which is the 5 people who turn up to these calls. Everyone's making this mistake. They'll build like one lander or one something, and then they'll test all kinds of different ideas and concepts to the lander. Unfortunately, the lander has a different conversation to the ad, and therefore the lander doesn't perform. And then they blame the ad, or they blame the lander, or they blame Facebook, or they blame something. But the point is, if you kind of step back and think about it, it actually had a very low probability of success to start with, because you've got a lander which has got a static conversation on it, unless you're doing dynamic landers, right? So leaving those aside, if you're doing static ones, then you're going to have one conversation, and then you're going to have a whole bunch of different concepts and ideas that you're sending to the one lander. So let's take an example. If I've got a weight loss product and my landing page is about how to lose weight in 30 days or less, but my ad could be about how to improve your blood sugar level, how to like a whole bunch of concepts that are related to that. And then but I drive it to a page that may have a conversation that's a little bit disconnected to the idea. So I get a really nice click-through rate on my ad, but I don't get any action on my lander. And we end up blaming the ad, or we end up blaming the lander, or whatever, when it basically was the wrong ad to the wrong landing page. So you're better off doing this. Now, those of you inside Leads Hook, we've shown you how to do dynamic landers, so you can only build one, and then automatically the message or the concept or the idea or the hook or the appeal or the whatever of the ad is automatically displayed onto the landing page. And now you're fully testing what is so, because now you're fully testing to see if the concept or the idea that you presented to the market, the conversation that you presented to the market, is actually valid and has some traction. Now, what you're doing here is just wasting money, because the odds of the probability of success is actually quite low. So any ad spend you have that is not related to the landing page itself is automatically going to be in the wasted money basket. And so there's a whole lot of money being wasted if you were to do this without a dynamic page. So if there's any questions on this, please post in the comment. But that basically is the basic idea, that if you're going to go wide with the ideas you want to test for, and there's a lot of money being spent on this. A lot of I know there's you hire a media buyer, and they you get the creatives done, and you spend so much money to get all this stuff up and running, and then you actually spend the money itself on the ads, and it goes to a page that has got a totally different conversation, and it's just like, it's so wasteful, right? So just if you don't have the ability to do dynamic pages, then trim down the number of things you want to test. So pick 2 different ideas and just do a very simple A/B test. Concept A, add A, concept B, add B, drive it to 2 separate pages, keep it nice and simple, right? That's the important part here. Otherwise, you're just wasting money. All right. Okay, so if there's no more questions on this, I'll head over to Leads Hook now and show you where you can test it. Now, I did want to share one thing is that if you were to use server-side split testers elsewhere, you do pay a pretty penny. We offer it inside Leads Hook for free, which is amazing that hardly anyone is using it. So if you were to do server-side split testing, if you use a tool like VMO, I think it's about 30 to 40 grand a year, if I'm not mistaken. And so anyway, so you get it for free. All right. Just all right. Now, where did I do it? Right here, I think. No, it's at the bottom here. Okay. So that's the one that I set up today. The idea here was I want to have 2 separate landing pages. So unbalanced pages, WordPress pages, whatever pages, but I have 1 decision tree in this case. Now, the 2 landers to do decision tree, that's an easier one to test, and you can test that if you want to. But let's say if you've got 2 landing pages and you've got 2 different hooks and 2 different ideas on it, and you've got your 2 separate ads going, how do you end up testing those? Or you've got 1 idea and you're sending it to 2 separate designs or something, right? So I wanted to cover that scenario today. And I'm using just a very simple WordPress test for this. So there's my landing page A, there's my landing page B. They both have the same decision tree on it. And so how do you set this up? So firstly, you're going to create your pages, whatever platform you're using, you build out your pages in it. And you've got your 2 URLs right here, that's URL 1, URL 2. And all we're doing is I'm going to add it as a third variable. I'm going to grab this one right here to show you. And all we're doing is inside when you create the split testing, you want to add the variant, and you want to click this little button right here. So I'm going to select my decision tree first, this one right here. That's the one that I want to use. And I want to add my URL for obviously it'll be A3 or whatever it is. And this is going to be, my variant, 3 or something. I'm just going to change the number here. Otherwise, it won't let me save it. And this is variant, 3. You can describe it with whatever you want. Okay, and then you pick your domain. If you got custom domains, and they'll show up here. I'm just going to leave the main one, and that's it. Now, the important settings here is, and this is what Now, if you're driving a small amount of traffic, then it's perfectly fine to do it this way. One third, one third, one third, or 50-50, or whatever it is. Each time you add a variant, it automatically will split it evenly, but you can actually go in and adjust it to whatever you want, right? So you can have it saying, so let's say if this is your control, right? So I'm going to just mark this as my control. I can actually come here and say that, you know what, I only want 90% to come here, and then I'll do, 5 and 5, right? So you can do it this way. So what happens is your main campaign is not ruined. You're continuing to make money from that, and then you're seeing if the other two will beat it. So oftentimes I see whenever there's a split test to be done, they're off the tendency is to go one third, one third, one third, or 50-50 or whatever. You don't have to. If you've got a stable campaign, then the opportunity cost of a losing campaign is the fact that the leads you didn't lose. So say, for example, if your lander is converting at 10% and your variant ends up doing 8%, then you've lost 20% of the leads. So you want to be careful, and obviously allocate your capital properly. And so now obviously if you don't have a campaign that's working, then you can evenly split. But once it starts working, you want to be a little bit more careful not to needlessly divert capital away from it. Plus, you can let this run now for a good 10 days or something, so you get a nice result. And that would be the other thing you would want to do. Do it for anywhere from 10 to 15 days of running it. And then you can get the result of it. Now, if you don't like the way that we give you stats, so like this, and you're like, hey, Nick, I don't like the way that Leads displays the stats, that's perfectly fine. The main value add of split testing is the setup part. Like there's a lot of time, energy, and money that is spent on setting it up. We've given a way that makes it really, really fast to set it up. So what you can do is, it's getting the stats right now, right? So what you can do is to not needlessly concern yourself with the stats part. We'll give you the stats, and then you can use any other online calculator if you like, or whatever. You don't like the way we display things, but that's fine. Just go and plug the numbers somewhere else. Most online calculators will ask for only two numbers. One is how many impressions you got, or how many visitors you got, and what were the number of leads or sales or whatever else that you got, and it'll crunch the numbers for you in a quarter of a second. So the value add is the fact that we make it easy for you to set it up with a server-side split tester. And that really is the big win here. Not the numbers. The numbers you can plug in any online tool, it'll give you the numbers. Obviously, you can use ours if you want. If you don't like it, or you don't like the display of it, or it doesn't make sense, whatever, just take the four numbers. If you got two variants, you're going to need four numbers. If you got three variants, you need six numbers, and plug it somewhere else, and it'll give you what the winner is based on the results you're seeing. Now, in terms of using it, like the other thing you can do is to take the obviously we've got custom domains, and you can pick one of those, but that's your variant, and you would go and add that into your ad, or wherever you want to add it, a question mark, and then you would add in your UTM params underscore campaign, and so on and so forth. Will all go after this. So your campaign inside Facebook or Google or whatever you're using will look something like this. Obviously, in your case, if it's a custom domain, it'll be a custom domain. And for Facebook, you want to do that because you verified the domain. So to make sure you remain consistent. And what happens now is that LeadsHook it'll carry your UTMs forward into the decision tree itself, and it'll automatically take care of the split for you. Now the main reason why we added in server side is firstly this main speed benefit. But secondly, once you've got this URL sitting inside your ads, you don't have to go and change those ads. If you don't have to go and go back into learning mode or whatever. Again, all you can do is to come here and add in another variant. So let's say there's another page you want to test now. You can go and add another variant and remove all of them if you wanted to. Theoretically, you could go and remove all of these and redirect all that traffic to a fourth lander that you haven't created yet, or you're going to create after the test, or whatever it is. And so what ends up happening is that it becomes a true testing platform where you don't needlessly touch the ads that are already working, but you can run lots of variants of the landing pages underneath it without ever changing the ads, because that destination URL that you've added to your ads actually never gets touched, if that makes sense. So that's a unique part that we added inside LeadsHook. so that you don't, because I know, go back to learning mode, you never get your traffic back. So that's the other reason for doing it in this way. As far as the setup is concerned, pretty simple. You take whatever existing pages you've got, just make sure that your decision tree is embedded on the page itself. That's how we read what traffic is arriving on the page. Beyond that, there's only one other setup that you have to do. It's inside your decision tree itself. When you set up the split tester, there's a little button there saying mark this node as a conversion, as an experiment conversion, and that's how we know it. So, but the benefit now is that it's selected the node level, so you can do it at the bottom of the decision tree. You can do it on a phone number node. You can do it on a pay, like you can do it halfway through the decision tree if you want as well. That's all totally up to you. We have some users who end up doing something like that because they want to catch, get numbers a little bit faster, and so they will move it further up, and then after a while they'll do another test where then they'll move it down. After they start getting a bit more stability in their campaigns. So totally up to you to how you mark the conversion itself on the node. And that, in a nutshell, kind of covers today's topic. I want to open up to any questions that you might have or any hindrances that you've experienced in trying to implement any of this stuff. And that's what I wanted to leave the rest of the call for anybody who wants to sort of or at least let me know, like, why aren't you doing split testing if you are not using split testing, or the issues that you've had when you've tried to do it, or whether leads hook or not. This doesn't have to be about the leads hook conversation only, but sort of or how are you doing your testing? So let's open it up. Feel free to either post a question in the comment here or unmute the mic and let's chat. Nope, no questions today.
So, Nick, I've got just a quick one, mate.
Sure.
We're using lead forms in the ad unit.
Okay.
I know in your tracking SOS, we spoke about this a little bit, but there's no way to really track if a lead form is working or not. Now, we now have the option to do in-app experiences. So like with a Facebook ad or a LinkedIn ad, you can do like a little microsite, which looks like a lead form.
Yep.
Could we do that using lead hook now? Can we put some code in there that pulls that form from lead hook so that we can do all of this clever stuff that you're talking about? Because then essentially the landing page is within the ad unit, right? They click the ad. We're optimizing for clicks over impressions. We can do that. But then it's the form submit within the unit that I'm getting the biggest drop off. And I want to increase that form submit ratio.
So that the form submit's happening on the platform itself, right?
Yeah. It's a lead form ad on the platform itself.
So what do you so you're saying that you don't want them to do that last part on that? Like, so for example, the name, email, phone number bit, are you want to redirect them to some external form? Is that the question?
Well, it's not redirect. I want to pull the external form into the platform.
You can do that now? They allow that?
Well, I saw an option for it, and I was just wondering if
okay, okay. No, so I haven't come across that, and that's not to say that it can't be done, because normally it poses a security issue, is why they traditionally have not allowed it to be done. But if that is the case, where it's as simple as adding this embed option, so for example, that right there, if you can copy and paste that into that particular, then absolutely you can. Yeah, then absolutely you can.
It won't take an iframe though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Before I become a liar and get everyone excited on the call, let me just pull it up on my ad platform, and I'll give you the exact language.
Okay, cool. Tell me what they're saying.
So I need to create a new. I think I need to create a new ad unit. 1 sec. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Take your time.
So like LinkedIn allows you to create landing pages within LinkedIn now.
Yep.
LinkedIn.com/ads. Let's just bump in there. I'm in Facebook already.
Yep.
So this one is the ad setup. Sorry, Zoom is just like slows things down.
All good. Feel free to share your screen if you want. I've got the permission.
I don't really want to share because I've got some stuff on here
that. Sure.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared to share it.
No, all good.
where is it? One is in the destination is a website, sending people's website, or an instant form. Instant experience is the Facebook thing. Fast loading mobile experience. So Facebook allows us to do an instant experience.
Right.
And the instant experience is a custom instant experience. Build your own layout with more design and interaction options. Add component. So I can share this bit because this hasn't got any client information.
If you look at my screen, I'm guessing this is what you're referring to.
Yeah. But I'm actually in the ads builder.
Okay.
So let me just quickly share that just very briefly on Facebook. So Facebook gives us these options.
Yep.
And you kind of got product set, header, text block. If I choose text block, there's no HTML option here. And this is where I was a bit like, well, how am I going to capture the lead? I was just wondering if you'd experienced it, if there's a way.
No, I haven't. In fact, it must be really new. So what I'll do is I'll have a play around with it this week, and then I'll get back to you in a
So
week or two.
there's this one, because if I can put lead hook form in here somehow.
They're mobile optimized. I'm just wondering what is the format that you put in, which is the whole point. Or it could be something that's quite custom to the Facebook platform itself. But that's okay. You know what? I'll cover it next week. I'll make a note of it, and
Thanks, mate.
I'll cover it next week.
What I have seen, which is relevant, is people opening like a microsite within the Facebook tab.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, if I can do that, then I can just open.
Correct.
And do it that way, right?
So I just want to see
I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that.
But anyway, thanks for the tip. I'll go down the rabbit hole this week and see what is the what's the lowdown on the whole thing. I'll have it ready next week.
Yeah, thanks, man.
No worries.
LinkedIn also has a similar thing. So if you look at LinkedIn, they've got a very similar thing.
Done. I will cover both.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
No. Right. Any other questions?
Come on, Nick, tell us once again why people don't bother with server side.
I should press the play button. I have that as, the DJs have that certain sound which plays every time. I'll just play that again. All right. So server-side tracking. I guess two server sides. One is server-side split testing versus server-side tracking. So I'll cover, since it's split testing today, I'll cover that first. So the main reason why people don't use server-side, because you need a server for it, and oftentimes the setup is quite technical. So what we did was when we had a look at it, we said, well, you know what, we can give you a server too, but then you'll be like, what the hell do I do with this? It doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't move the usage any further, and we're no better off, as in it's still designed for a technical audience. So i.e. someone enterprise who's got a developer to do that for them. And that's the reason why when we created it, we don't even have a client side option here, because when that's it. You get the URL, and this is the server side experience. And as a result of that, I think I have it. Let me like it's instantaneous. Right, and that's the whole point, and it doesn't bias any one of the other options. That's the reason why we've offered it as a server side. Client side is doable, but now you got to manage the latency between version A and version B, and I find that there's a lot. In fact, I'll tell you what happened is there was a campaign that I reviewed, and the guy made this big bold claim to me. He said, "No one's ever beaten my page." And he said, I've been running it for like about a year or something. And that's usually impossible, or not impossible, but the odds that someone's not going to beat a page for 12 months, is a little bit far-fetched, or yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but highly unlikely. So when I had a look at it, I could see that there was a massive latency between version 1 and version 2. And I can't remember what app they were using, but essentially it was a client side where you get you get a code. It looks like a pixel. Basically, you slap onto your page, and what it was doing was the control was the page on which the code was sitting, and that's the page that the ads were referring to. And then it would, once the page would load, it kind of loads partially, and then it decides whether it wants to keep the lead on the page. So the control gets to keep it, in which case it just continues loading. Otherwise, it redirects or changes the URL to the alternate page. And in that switch, it loses a few milliseconds, and that impacts or many milliseconds in the example that I saw. And what ends up happening as a result is that second variant has a disadvantage now because its conversion rate is going to drop because of the slowness of the loading. So what you need to do essentially is to run an AA test first to find out. So we ran an AA test, and what we found was there was a difference. So an AA test would be, to take this page and replicate it twice, and you run the variation as, or you run the exact copy of it as the variant. So version A and version B looks the same. So that's why it's called an AA test. And you see what the conversion rates are in an AA test. And what you're going to find is that if there is latency, that you're going to find that your alternate is converting at a lower rate, which is theoretically impossible, especially if you're splitting the same traffic, 50-50. And that's what we found. And so I kind of we did a bit of a deep dive to understand like what the hell's going on here. And then I looked at page speed experiences and all kinds of stuff, and it dawned on me that it's actually the split testing code itself is resulting in the latency of the variants, and they're disadvantaged. So the way to do it would be, if you continue to run it that way, would be to take the underperformance and sort of use it as an adjustment factor. Now the problem is that generally speaking, we're building these funnels and you're adding all kinds of scripts to it, you're making all sorts of edits to it. So each time you make a change that is material, or you're making enough of a change to a page, let's say you've added a script to one but not the other, you need to go back into the AA test to see what the hell's going on here. And each time you do an AA test, depending on how much you've changed, you're going to find that the underperformance changes every time. So one time it'll be less by 1%, sometimes it'll be less by 2%. And so you're constantly running an AA test to make sure that your AB is going to run properly, which ends up becoming that you're spending a whole lot of money, or you simulate the test. It doesn't have to be live traffic. Could be an automated test of some sort, but you effectively have to run that all the time or consistently enough to ensure that you're capturing the underperformance, which you're then going to use to adjust the actual, and then find out that version B is actually working because it's actually disadvantaged, right? So in order to avoid all that and to get all these erroneous results, you think about it, how many bad decisions are being made because they're assuming that an A/B test is actually valid when the underperformance of the variant is at a disadvantage. So yeah, I mean, it boggles the mind how much money has been wasted. So for that reason, we opted for the server side, and that's the reason why you want to do the server side. Does that answer the question? I think that was the question.
Yeah, sure does. Great insights
Perfect.
again. Thank you.
Cool. No problem. Awesome. Thanks. Right. Anybody else? Paul, any question on testing?
No, I think it's pretty clear. So
Cool.
yeah,
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Yeah, I will get back to you if I have any after trying it.
Done. Okay. Awesome. Josh knows it all, so he probably won't have a question for me. or he just logs in and doesn't. Anyway, all right. If there's no more questions or anything else, we can call it a night. But if there's anything else, happy to. Oh, thanks, man. I got a smiley. All right. All right, guys. If there's no more questions, yeah. Sorry, question. Yes, Jay.
No. I'm just saying thanks.
Okay. No problem. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Oh no, you had a question?
Is there a guide on the? Thanks for that Facebook post, by the way, on the score forms. That was really helpful. Yes. Is there a guide on how to create them?
Yeah, there is. Or what I'll do is, you know what? I'll cover it in next week's call. In fact, you're the third person who's requested in the last week. So I'll cover it in next week's call. So because I'd rather do a Q&A about it so that you can ask me those curly questions that I may not have covered in my guide. So why don't we do it together next week? I'll have something prepared, and then you can ask some questions about it if you have any questions.
Yep. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
Awesome. All right, guys, we'll do that next week. Well, thanks, everyone. Otherwise, have a pleasant evening and a profitable week. We'll same time, same place. See you next week.